With the arrival of 1986's R.E.M. album Life's Rich Pageant, we were witnessing the blueprint for R.E.M. moving forward into Document and Green and beyond. With Life's Rich Pageant, the band clearly wanted to do a 180-degree turn from the previous album, Fables of the Reconstruction, which they recorded in London with famed producer, impresario Joe Boyd. Joe Boyd, who had worked with Fairport Convention, Nick Drake, many others. But they wanted to move away from this ethereal, somewhat murky sound into an AOR oriented, harder edged, radio friendly rock band. And they called on Don Gehman. Don Gehman had worked with Stephen Stills and, most importantly, John Cougar Mellencamp on what was it, the '83 album, and then moving into Scarecrow. And I think he continued working with Mellencamp beyond. But those songs, the sound construction and engineering of those songs was absolutely perfect. The rifle drum shots that were coming from Kenny Aronoff. Kenny Aronoff is an absolute beast on drums, but Don Gehman knew exactly how to mic and engineer those recordings. And those are some of the most distinctive drum sounds on record if you listen to those Mellencamp records from the early to mid 1980s. Anyway, moving forward, Mike Mills and Peter Buck, especially, and Bill Berry, they knew they wanted to move in a different direction. They hired Don Gehman. They went down to Athens, booked some studio time, ran through some demos that they had for what would eventually come on Life's Rich Pageant. And there was some give and take there, and eventually they decided to decamp and go up to Indiana to this Belmont Mall studio that Don Gehman had purposely built for John Mellencamp just outside of Bloomington, Indiana. And that's where, during the months of April and May 1986, they crafted, and I say crafted, the album that was to be released in July 1986, only a few short months later. Don Gehman realized that R.E.M., they had been recording live, basically, everyone in the room, maybe doing some isolated vocals, a little bit of isolated drum work, but he worked tirelessly to get the band to realize that a layered approach is the way to go. And the band took that moving forward. You can hear Don Gehman's influence all over Automatic for the People, as an example, that album. And he called on Scott Litt. He handpicked Scott Litt when the band was ready to do Document in, about a year later. He wasn't 100% sold on the group of songs. It was a little bit busy, and recommended Scott Litt. Scott Litt did wonders for the band moving forward. But the foundation of the modern R.E.M. power pop sound was definitely laid by Don Gehman, and the band was all in. One of the key points of Don Gehman's approach in listening and looking at the prior albums that R.E.M. had released was getting Michael Stipe to take a little more confidence in his vocals and to enunciate better. And in parallel with that improved confidence and more outwardly looking outward singing, he brought the vocals up to the front of the mix along with Bill Berry's drum sounds. And Bill Berry was beyond himself. This was the drum sound that he had been dreaming of. Now, the band was firing on all cylinders. You can easily see that if you drop the needle on Cuyahoga. Cuyahoga is an anthemic, amazing REM song, and we get the lead-in nimble bass lines from Mike Mills, that chiming 12-string Rickenbacker sound that Peter Buck had basically perfected at that point in time, studying the Byrds, studying George Harrison and the Beatles. Then that rifle snare shot, it's like a slingshot out of left field from Bill Berry. An amazing sound. And then, of course, the confident outward vocal delivery from Michael Stipe. Cuyahoga is one of my favorite REM songs. This album might be, it's very difficult with REM. It might be in my top 3 favorite albums from the band. In addition to Cuyahoga, which is an amazing song, a little bit of political intent there, talking about the river that runs through Cleveland, Ohio, that famously burned due to the pollution back in 1969. But we also have Fall on Me, and then what the band kind of perceived to be as a throwaway. It's not even credited on the back cover.
Well, this song, Superman, I used to manage a record store, and it was like a really hip, little teeny record store, sold used and rare records, and I would play anything. You know, you'd see a record, you forgot what a weird title, Dr. Morrison's Lollipop Shop. I bought it.
It must be worth playing.
And it was horrible. But in the same day that I got that record, I saw this record by The Click, Superman, and I kind of liked the idea of superheroes in songs, you know, Green Lantern and that, what is it, Electric Banana?
Yeah.
You know, whatever that one was. You know, Donovan. You remember Donovan? Donovan, he's coming back. You know, I don't know
Where did he go?
Time for the Donovan revival. But I gave Mike a copy, and we've both loved that song for 6 years. This is since 1980. This song has 2 chords, and it took us that long to work it up.
And that would be a cover song called Superman, Mike Mills saying lead. Superman is a song from a band called The Click. It was originally recorded in 1969. Peter Buck used to play it in a used record shop that he used to work in Athens, Georgia, in the early days before the band. And he had remembered that song, threw it out in a recording session, and they decided to record it, kind of flipped the switch and had Mike Mills on lead vocal. It is a soaring, anthemic. It sounds like it could have belonged on #1 record right out of Memphis from Big Star. And it is an amazing final song, final statement on this record where they were a little more politically forward-leaning, and they would get even more so as they moved into Green and beyond. But they also wanted to have a little bit of the kitchen sink on this album, and they threw in that cover, not even credited on the back cover. This is an amazing album, mastered by Bob Ludwig. Look for Master Disc in the Dead Wax. And also very cool, all of these songs have got a little bit of a tie-in, some words and phrases that the band put. Like, for example, Cuyahoga, a dying river. This is where we walked, swam, hunted, danced, sang. So I haven't looked at the lyric sheet. That might be directly lifted from the lyrics, not sure, but this is a definite classic, something that belongs in your collection. If you don't have all of the R.E.M. albums, starting with the EP Chronic Town 1983, and then leading all the way up to New Adventures in Hi-Fi from 1996, this was the Bill Berry era, and they went on to do some incredible albums after Bill Berry left. I'm not downgrading R.E.M. as a band after that. In fact, I'm really looking forward this year to hopefully a 25th anniversary release of the first album that came after Bill Berry's departure, Up. I'm just waiting on the announcement. They've been doing 25th anniversary treatments of all of the albums up to now, so hopefully this will be no different. But back to that early run of albums, You are missing out if you don't have those. If you can't find originals, get the reissues because REM and the band care about the sound. They have been done incredibly well. There sometimes is a bonus disc of demos, etc. Well worth your time in seeking those out. Fairly affordable. Some of these are still in print. You can walk into a shop and find those today. This has been my little dissertation about an incredible album, the fourth REM album, full album, Life's Rich Pageant. It is, like I said earlier, kind of the blueprint for modern REM stepping forward out into the world and beyond after this album.